And welcome to In-Game Chat for Saturday, July 19th, 2014. This is Season 8, Episode 29. I'm Scott.
I'm Dennis.
And I'm RJ.
And that's it. No Nathan tonight, and no James. Obviously, Nathan will be back with us next week. James will not be back with us next week. It'll be... Unless something happens, it'll be late August before we get James back on the show.
Yeah, work calls.
Yes, it does.
Yep.
Duty calls. He said duty. Anyway, I'm Scott. We've got Dennis. We got RJ here, and we're going to do our best to give you 2 hours of video game discussion and conversation. If you'd like to get in touch with us and be a part of that, you can. Our phone number is 334-272-9228. Now, Nathan's not here. He's normally the guy that answers the phone. So if you do call and it doesn't immediately get answered, please just let it ring, and we will get to it. I've got to grab the phone, so if I'm in the middle of talking, I'll just have to throw it to one of you guys so that we can pick up the phone and talk to one of our listeners. But that number again is 334-272-9228. You can check out ingamechat.net for all the links to get in touch with us. You can find us on Twitter at ingamechat, as well as over on Facebook. You can email us, everyone, at ingamechat.net. We are streaming the cam feed live right now through twitch.tv. Head over to twitch.tv, search for In-Game Chat, and you can find us there and join us in the chat room live while we broadcast. And the chat room is certainly buzzing right now. So thanks for everybody who's in there right now, and everybody who is to come. We will do a chat room roll call in the second hour of the show. So welcome, Dennis. Welcome, RJ.
Thank you.
Glad to have you guys here at least.
You're welcome.
Yeah, exactly. Glad you guys are here. I've often said that there is no way I would do this show by myself. So I got to have at least one other person here with me. So I'm glad you guys are here, and I appreciate it. So let's see. What are we going to talk about today? We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's first go over the games that we've played, the games that we haven't played, whatever we've done since the last time we were here. I'll start with, as soon as we got done with the show here Saturday, we popped on Twitch and started watching Evo. Mm-hmm. And then Sunday, I got up in enough time to do some Silver Ball Sundays and got out of there as quick as I could so that I could
go watch more Evo.
So I could go watch more Evo, yep. Which was exciting. I even went to bed watching Evo because I have to get up Monday through Friday. I get up at 4:30 in the morning to get ready for work. I have to be here at 5:30 in the morning. And so Sunday night, 9 o'clock, I get the iPad prepped near the bed, and I, go to Twitch and start watching. And they're going and going. It's like 11:30, and I'm like, oh, God, we're still doing this thing. And it gets to midnight, and I'm like, we're still doing this. 12:30, I think, is when they finally got done, our time anyway, with the final round, the final match of Street Fighter 4. And it got done. I made a tweet or something like that, and it was like, boom, I was out. And it is made for a very long week. But you've got the results from Evo.
Yeah, they posted the results out, and I got a...
Yeah, before you get to those results, just overall, what'd you think? You're our fighting game guy, so honestly...
I mean, like I said, every year, Evo is just the best of the best, all conglomerating together in one spot and putting their skills to the test. And it's always a pleasure seeing pure skill in action. I mean, guys who've made name for themselves all over the country, all over the world, apparently, getting together and showing what they got. And it's really interesting to see how well they do against each other, seeing people crack under pressure or get through pressure, or putting the screws to somebody. and putting all their best efforts on display. It's really exciting to see every year. The best of the best.
What is your favorite one to watch out of the fighting stuff? Now, is it game related or is it player related?
It's game related for me.
Okay.
The two games I'll always pay attention to is Ultra Street Fighter and Virtua Fighter, if they ever have it.
I was about to say I haven't seen Virtua Fighter in.
Yeah, you don't see, most of the time you see it in like side tournaments, or mostly in the Japanese tournaments, or sometimes in California, but. Mainly, I don't see a lot of Virtua Fighter tournaments.
How does we should interview somebody with the Evo program rather than me asking you these questions because you may not know. How is a game picked to be showcased at Evo?
I think it's the most popular ones at any given
so
time.
They have.
Really.
Is it kind of like you were talking about Final Round in Atlanta? It's like here's all these games, and if enough people get into these, we'll do one for that. If not. Then we'll scrap it,
or they'll just put it on as like a little side tournament somewhere, or just to give.
But see, I got to think, as big as Evo is, anything they put out there could be done, and they've got to somehow trim that so that they can do a schedule of what they're going to be broadcasting and what they're going to be doing as far as holding the tournaments for. So I'm very curious as to how they decide what gets in.
Because I'm trying to think of, I don't think Mortal Kombat. Made it.
No, I don't think so
Mortal
at all.
Kombat
They had
didn't make it
Injustice,
this year,
but they didn't have.
They didn't, but they had Injustice,
they had
which kind
Injustice,
of took that. Injustice was there last year, I think, too.
I believe so.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I mean,
Obviously,
they had issues because what was it last year's when Nintendo tried to put their foot down about Smash Brothers,
and they had some issue about that.
Yeah, and then
didn't want anything put over.
I think being live streamed as well as being in. Regarding laws regarding playing it in a public event.
They took some crap over that, and eventually they relinquished and said, "Whoops, sorry, we made a mistake there. Here, go do this thing." And they were fine, and they were last minute. They were able to actually go through with the tournament and do the broadcast of it and everything else. So
public backlash just.
And then I think Nintendo embraced that obviously with the Invitational that they did at E3 this year, the Smash Brothers Invitational that they did. I think they've kind of embraced that tournament mentality with these things. I'm not sure exactly what their deal was. Nintendo has a long history of not strong-arming, but
they want to control their message.
Very controlling,
and that's kind of. I guess that's kind of what happened with Vivo. Was this is a thing that we're not running. Why are you playing our game here? And then once the internet, being the internet, unleash their backlash against them. They were like, "Oh, okay, this is actually something people care about." We can't really
internet let you know real quick when they don't like something. So they didn't like that stance Nintendo took.
Yeah. So go over the list here. Just give us the top three or whatever you want to give because you know these things. You know these things much better than I do.
Probably mostly are the names that are at the top the ones expected? Are there were there surprises?
Yeah, I'd like a little commentary on it because just throwing out the names, it's like, okay, is that where this guy was expected? If you've got any, I don't know if you do, but you know these things so much more than we do.
Well, I remember the top names were Ricky Ortiz, Justin Wong, Team Evil Geniuses. Ricky Ortiz placed 5th place using Rufus and Relento in the Ultra Street Fighter 4. Like I said, Justin Wong finished tied for 17th, but the top winners were Team MD Luffy using Rose, Bonchan using Sagat, and Fudo, who's a king of Virtua Fighter, I've been told, is using Fei Long. Those are the top three. I think Luffy's from Europe, France, I believe.
He's actually from Asia, but he was playing for France, I believe.
From France, yeah.
Yeah.
Using Rose. That was really surprising me. A lot of folks didn't understand Rose being there, but I saw a lot of his play. She was beating a lot of folks to the punch, getting a lot of hits in, getting a lot of combos off. I mean, a lot of folks couldn't find a way to get through his defense, and when he started using his skills on display, I mean, didn't nobody have an answer for him. Even though he came out of the loser's bracket, but he did take it. Got number 1 spot overall.
Now this was for Ultra Street Fighter 4.
Ultra Street Fighter 4.
Yeah, I say this was the top one, but I mean this was the one that was we're doing this one last type situation. But I think Blaze Blue had the biggest prize money, didn't it?
They had a big pot added to it from Axis Games.
It was a $30,000 pot.
30,000
nice
things total, 20,000 for one, and then 10,000 worth of other stuff added to it as well. Still, I mean, they only had like maybe a little over 500 people signing up for it. That really, I thought it would be like at least 1,000 or so, but no.
I'm barely familiar. I'm familiar with that game in name only, although I did watch it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking that a lot of folks would be using Kokonoe, the character in that game, but she was nerfed apparently. So some of the advantages that she had initially was gone. So now everything was a little more level than normal. But the top three, and that was Galileo losing Lychee, Dagura using Azrael, and Dora Bang using Bang, of course. I didn't know. I'm not familiar with the players in here, but I think most of the players in there were Japanese. Because
and
it takes off there as opposed to here.
You were saying, we were talking about this earlier. You said that a lot of those characters in the top of Blaze Blue were ones you weren't. Didn't play.
I've seen Lychee in action. She's really good. I mean, the characters I use, I didn't see, so I guess I'm using low tier characters in these things. Like I use Noelle Vermillion in Blaze Blue when I did play the game, and I didn't see her name show up anywhere in the top results. So maybe I'm using the wrong character, or like I thought before, maybe it's just the skill of the player more than the character. Just put that in action, see if your skill is better with the character than anything else.
I think it is. I think it is the skill of the character, or the skill of the player over the character that they pick. Obviously, you can have some people who 1 year they just dominate, and I point towards, and it was brought up in the chat room with STM Fuller, Injustice, Batgirl.
Yeah,
guy dominated with that character.
Yeah.
But he was already in the losers bracket. Somebody was able to beat him, fluke or not. Somebody was still able to beat him, so he was in the losers bracket. He still had to win 6 times in order to take the championship, and he did it in a sweep with Batgirl versus whoever the winner was. I don't know, you probably have it in there, but and the guy used Zod all 6 matches, and he may have pulled off a win or two here as far as some of the rounds, but the Batgirl swept it, 6-0 on that, and I have to think that he'll be back next year if they have Injustice, and he may dominate, but I think somebody will say, okay, I've got to figure out how to get past his play style with that character. I've got to find that character's weaknesses or that character's vulnerabilities, or I've got to find a character who can get over that character's abilities and strengths so that I can... I think people spend the rest of their time saying, let me find the character who can deal with that. Who can deal with whatever that character's the other characters is dishing out. It's amazing what goes into fighting games. It reminds me a lot of sort of MMOs when you're having to pick your armors and things like that. When you go against a certain type of enemy, I need to make sure that I'm equipped this way. And I think it applies as well in fighting terms. When I go against, if somebody picks that character, I need someone who can do. I need to have that character in the back of my pocket who says, "Okay, if they pick this, I have to pick this. If they go that way, I have to go that way."
Yeah.
And luckily, you can do. I think that's probably one of the reasons that they have the
lock down which character you use from the beginning.
There's that, and then the best of 3 matches because you pick yours and they pick theirs, and they make a change or something like that. I don't know.
But typically in those tournaments, if you do lose a round, you are free to pick a different character. If you lose, if you win, you stay with what you got.
You're stuck with who you
stay with what you got. As long as if you win, you stay with what you got. But if you lose, you're free to pick.
Yeah.
You're free to pick to change up to something else.
Yeah. So go over some of the other.
Yeah, we were speaking of Injustice. Yeah, RG Sonic Fox, who we were talking about, one with Batgirl, and it wasn't Pizza of the Hut; it was Pig of the Hut.
Pig of the Hut,
who was using Zod. Third place was MIT 88 using Deathstroke, Batgirl, and Aquaman. So yeah, Batgirl looks to be a pretty popular character amongst Injustice. We saw why.
And she was a DLC character.
Yeah, she is DLC.
Yeah, so she can come with the stock game. The guy who won Injustice, did you say he was in Atlanta? He was at Final Round. Final Round in Atlanta.
And he won Mortal Kombat and Injustice that year, earlier in March, this past March. So yeah, pretty good at what he does. Let's see, Killer Instinct. We had CD Jr., Sadira, smothering offense all over the place. I mean, when you were stuck in a combo, you were pretty much done unless he messed up. Something along those lines.
You and I watched most of the Killer Instinct after the show last Saturday, we were watching. I want to say, was it Wong that was playing while we were watching?
I think one was playing with Saberwolf.
Oh yeah, no, he always was playing with Saberwolf, but that's so much fun to watch these guys. It really is. I don't know a thing about fighting games, and if you put a fighting game in my hand, it's going to look miserable. And in fact, we could show some of that, I guess, later after the show if I wanted to stream some of the games. I've got Injustice on the PC, so I mean, we could easily show you how pathetic I am at games. But I own the game, and I love watching them, and I love, sometimes I'll just put it on easy so that when I play through the story, I can feel like, some badass at it, because I'm not. But so that I can...
you can actually win a match.
So I can just go through the story, and actually see all the different things that the characters do and that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, fighting games, I freely admit that I am horrible at them. But I love to watch them.
Yeah.
I need to be watching the Dota. I need to be watching the International. There is a stream for that, I think, that's for, like, beginners.
I'm not sure.
It's already done, but you can go back and watch it, and it's for people who don't know anything about the game, and they give a nice little... The commentary that they give is very educational about what's going on the screen and informing you of how this is... what's actually happening, why it's happening, how it's happening, all those different traits of what goes on. For a guy who doesn't know fighters, I get. Punch, high punch, low punch... whatever the other different punches are, the different kicks, all that stuff. I can learn that as I go, but there's so much involved with a MOBA that I don't know anything about. So.
Yeah. By the way, kudos to the folks at Evo, the commentators there. They were
they did
pretty
fantastic
good
job.
at telling folks about what they meant when they put certain terms out there that the general or average stream watcher wouldn't know what they were talking about.
Yeah, it was. They were wonderful at the commentary. For that, and I need to, like I said, check out some of the international commentary and see how that's going, and just check it out. I don't want to, I don't want to write something off that I haven't given a chance.
Right,
right. So I'd like to give it a chance. So continue on with your list.
Okay, yeah, we'll swing with Killer Instinct. Second place was Rico Suave using a good list of folks. He used Thunder, Fulgore, Glacius, Jago, and Saberwolf in his run.
Where did you get the list here? Where can people go to get that?
This was at shoryuken.com.
Okay.
You can look up the search for Evo, search the Evo tournament up there, and they'll have a listing of all their articles they placed on there, and one of them has the results of this past tournament posted up there for review.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm trying to see what third place was. Justin Wong, of course, using Saberwolf. Not, I'm thinking, not a lot of characters to pick from so far. I mean, they're still releasing folks as we go along. I'm trying to remember when the full version is going to be finished with that.
Justin was in a ton of matches. I mean, he didn't do as well in some as he did in others, but Killer Instinct, he got third, and then Marvel vs. Capcom, he got first.
Yeah, he won the Marvel vs. Capcom 3. He won that one.
Did a miraculous stage dive as he won. I'm assuming he tripped, but it just completely fell. He did not care, though, because he just came in first place. And I have no idea if there was a monetary prize there for that or not. But I'll tell you, I don't think a lot of these people do it for money. They've got some sponsorships and stuff, and the money's there.
Yeah.
But they don't look like guys that are doing it for money.
No.
They're doing it for that credibility of being number one and taking that
recognition
title.
Recognition, best in the country, best in the world, things like that.
And that's when you're doing it for fun, and it's not a job to you. But yeah. So, any other names you wanted to point out? Any other games?
Pretty much the names that stuck out to me.
Yeah. Really. Overall, you were impressed with everything, and I would think you would be.
I very much.
Is that something you ever want to do?
Yeah, that's very much something I want to do one year.
Can I don't mean to get personal, and if you don't want to answer the question, you're fine. I don't even know if this is personal, but what's the reason you don't? Is it finances?
It's one is finance. I mean, I had enough from tax. I had a tax refund enough to go on a trip, but it's going by yourself because you have to get airfare. Then you got to have that hotel room for 4 days, because trying to play it all Sunday night or watching the event all Sunday night, and then catch that flight following Monday, things like that. So it'd be best to go with a group of folks and do it that way. But I had the finances set and the time available this year, but not enough people to come with this time. So it was a planning thing that fell through. So for 2015, we're just going to get together with the folks that I know and see if we can get up a group together to go next year. So
I'd really like you to go.
Plan as early as possible now, because we're making plans to try to go there next year.
I would really like you to go.
And other tournaments as well. So,
So, did you, outside of EVO, what else did we all do? I'll start with RJ. What have you done this past week?
I played a little bit more of Dark Souls 2, trying to get some more leveling up done for the DLC later this month or next month. I know they got the DLC coming. I want to get prepped for that. And I also started playing the 5th chapter of Wolf Among Us. So those two are what I've dealt with this past week.
Dennis?
Let's see. I actually did quite a bit. Got Magic 2015, which is the latest from, I think it's Stainless Games, I think, are the ones who put it out, but based on the Magic Gathering card game. And been enjoying that. There's some issues. The previous Duels of the Planeswalkers is what it was subtitled on the previous years, and this year's just Magic 2015, but This one actually lets you build your own custom decks. In the previous years, they would literally hand you, like, here's 10 different decks of all the various colors with different strategies here. Use whichever one you want in here. This time around, after you finish the tutorial, it's like, okay, pick 2 colors, you get a deck based on that, and that's what you're stuck with for the next 5 or 6 battles. That even though they don't tell you that, you're facing off against, like, characters who wield a lot of black or green and red. So if you pick one of those and you're kind of not playing the anti-colors of those, well, you're just going to have a hard time. You're just going to have to live with it, or just delete your game, restart it, and try to get a different set of colors.
Yeah.
There's a lot of complaints around the internet. I haven't had too much of a problem with it myself, but I can understand where the complaints come from, especially since it's such a radical shift from the 2014 and previous years.
So is it just like a luck of the draw? What you get, you're stuck with. That's it. Have fun.
Yeah, I mean, you get to pick, but they don't tell you. It doesn't even tell you, like, oh yeah, you're locked into this. You don't get another deck to play with or anything like you did in previous years. It's such a shift from the previous iterations that people are wondering, well, this isn't fun. It's not like 2014 or 2013 or whatever previous iteration it is.
Yeah.
And I can understand that. I haven't had much of an issue with it. I didn't play much of the previous versions, so I never did get used to that mindset of, well, I have different decks to choose from if I fail against this particular opponent. And I'm just kind of like, well, let me play again. Like, it's occasionally frustrating when they pull off, like, some great strategy you just have no counter with, and it's like, now I'm just clicking through, waiting till my life runs out because they've won the game at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from that, I'm not having that much of an issue with it. The other thing I tried out, which...
Well, we'll get to that in just a minute. We're going to take a break. We'll come back and finish your thoughts on the next game that you played. I think both of you and I both played it, if that's the one we're talking about. And I'll go over the stuff that I've been doing this past week as well. And don't forget, you can call in 334-272-9228. That is 334-272-9228. By the way, if you hear us during a commercial break, that's a perfect time to call in if you want to be on the show, because I can devote my attention to the phones to get it, because Nate is not here. He is in the chat room, oddly enough, but he's just checking in with his phone. But yeah, if you want to get in and be on the show, call us, 334-272-9228. We'll be right back with more in-game chat in just a moment. Here's music, oddly enough, from King of Fighters 98. This is one of your tracks, I think, that you gave us. Anything fighting game related, it came from RJ. But we'll be right back with more of IGC in just a moment. And welcome back to In-Game Chat. Music there from Mist, from Cyan Worlds. Can't wait to go to Seattle. Cannot wait to go to Seattle, man. It's going to be great. Anyway, welcome back to In-Game Chat. We were talking to Dennis about what he had been playing this past week since we had done our show. And continue, or you're about to...
I did want to mention... I did load up Final Fantasy 14 this weekend.
They had a free thing this week.
Yeah, they're doing a free weekend where if you had a character already, you could just go in and just do whatever you wanted to. Not a lot has changed. I only got in for about an hour or so. I saw some like interface elements that like, oh, okay, this is interesting stuff where like I could see clearly where like equipment where if it was like on one of my class equip lists, I could look at it and it's like, oh, okay, this is something I'm actually using in one of my other classes that I use. So that was a nice little thing. Not a lot has changed as far as I can tell. It is something, if I had the time, I would play it more, but MMO is just such a time sink, at least in order to get anything accomplished in them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, I did also pick up Wayward Manor.
Right, that released this week. And this was the guys from the guys who did PB Winterbottom,
The Odd Gentleman.
Neil Gaiman has some input into this. I haven't looked at the credits to see what all he has in this. I know he has the narration.
Yeah, he's got the narration in it.
I'm not exactly sure what else he is involved with in this. I did not watch the credits to see. I streamed this on Twitch when it first released. I streamed my first playthrough of it. I have not streamed it again, but I do plan on doing some more streams with it, and then probably putting that on our YouTube channel. I think this is a game I can go through pretty quickly, and so I'll just do a quick thing and put it up on YouTube. But your time with it?
It's a very simple game, really. It's not.
If you had played PB Winterbottom.
Yeah.
I was very nervous going into this. And you can actually hear me on the stream, or I mentioned this last week, I can't remember which, but I said, boy, if it's anything like that, you guys are in for a treat of watching me try and figure out these puzzles. However, it is nothing like that. Down to, obviously, down to the look of the game wouldn't be anything like that, but down to the gameplay style, and it just feels like if you had played PB Winterbottom, this is not anything that you would expect out of The Odd Gentleman as far as how this thing works.
It's very casual. It's
extremely
I don't
casual.
think there's even a way to achieve any kind of fail state or game over in it. I think no matter what, you always have...
You made a good point downstairs when we were talking that it feels like a mobile game.
It very much does. I mean, not that it's a bad thing. I mean, I paid $10 for it. That's fine for a mobile game or one that has a lot of the aesthetics that make it look like it should be on a mobile system. But yeah, it really does. It's very simplistic. There's not really much of a HUD aside from like tracking your individual scares up to when you can complete the level.
Yeah, we should say that this game released on Wednesday. Game released on Wednesday, and up until its release, and I haven't even checked since the release. There was basically a trailer that had been there for months now, and it was a CG trailer, and it didn't show any gameplay. It didn't show any kind of gameplay, but you kind of got the gist of what it was, which is basically you're a ghost and you're trying to scare people that are in this house, Wayward Manor. Yeah. That's the gist of it. Now, if there's deeper stuff to it that is going to be told through the story, I don't know. I haven't gotten to that yet. I'm only on chapter 2. It looks like there's 5 parts per chapter, and there's 5 chapters. So 25 total levels in the game. I assume. I haven't gotten that far to really see.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but yeah, it does feel like a mobile game. I fired it up and I played it.
Yeah, and looking at their website, they did partner with a company that is mostly known for mobile games. So this The Odd Gentleman partnered with a company called Moonshark, and their titles are known for being mobile systems. So it actually kind of makes sense that it does have a lot of that mobile aesthetic.
It does. I mean, obviously, the visuals aren't anything that's gonna blow your mind.
You're always locked into the same view of the room, no matter what. You can't move around or anything. It's literally like click on this object to haunt it, and then it will do its thing, either cause distraction or scare the
right. You're trying
character.
You've got to get so many scares in each room And when you get the full of those, you have one more scare that you can do that will complete that section, so you can move on to the next. And there, I would say the challenge would come in getting those different objectives.
Yeah, getting the achievements, because like one of the first ones is drop all the bottles in the rafter on the character that's underneath them.
Yeah.
Things like that. And it does seem like those, you can get yourself to a point where you can't achieve those, at least not all of them in the same level.
So the challenge would lie there. But overall, this is not a very challenging game.
Yeah, no, if you just want to go through to unlock each successive chapter, it's simple. Not a bad thing, but I don't feel particularly bad about not continuing it right away after I stopped. It was like I could just easily let this sit on my backlog for a while and then come back to it, which kind of tells me it's not really grabbing me that well.
Yeah.
It's not me either. After I got done playing it, I sort of sat back and I thought for a moment. I think, you know what? There's probably an audience out there for this.
Oh yeah,
and there
definitely.
is. And I'm not saying saying it's horrible. I'm a fan of Gaiman's writing. I'm a fan of his works, and
Same here.
I'd like to get more into this to get that, but you really only get the narration,
but in between chapters.
So you'll get 5 parts of narration. It seems. Obviously, again, I say this without having completed the game. I plan to finish it by the time we have our next show, so I could give you more of an idea of my thoughts on it as a whole, rather than just this little part that I played.
I think overall, if you're expecting some kind of complexity from this game, you're not necessarily going to get that unless you are an achievement hunter. Again, it's not bad. It's just there's not really just anything there. Just saying, you gotta play and finish this game. It's just kind of like, well, it could be just like any other mobile game on my phone here. It's like, I just start this, play it for 5 minutes while you're, having to wait around for something, and then, okay, you can stop now.
Yeah. This would be good for a Vita or a 3DS or something like that. This would be fantastic, but it would really work well on a VDS or 3DS with the touchpad. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And the same with the Vita now, because it's touchpad for the Vita as well. So.
Even just on a mobile device like phone, iOS and Android.
So, and you and I both played that, and again, like I said, I streamed it. I don't know if the stream is still. I don't know if the video is still there. I didn't do a highlight of it because all of my every time I do a stream a game, it's all saved on the hard drive as far as the video of it. And like I said, I plan to do a quick YouTube video of the whole thing.
It is on our Twitch channel, so
it's still there.
There, yes.
Okay, you can still just go to the stuff we've done, and you can still watch it there if you want to get an idea of what the gameplay is on this, and see for yourself. What else did I play? That was on Wednesday. Played some more Sniper Elite. Really enjoying that. Got through the level that me and Nathan were on from last week, and then I completed Did I complete another level? No, I didn't. I finished that level, and then I started another one. What's fun about Sniper Elite, and I know that I'm breaking the game when I do this, but because it's got the quick save feature, I will quick save before. So, obviously, I can quick save before I make a shot, because if I alert anybody, if that shot goes completely wrong, if I screw that up, I can just reload real quick and try it again. That goes without saying. And you should do that every time you take out a guy and everything is fine and you didn't alert anyone. It's good to do a quick save. So at least that's one more person down.
It's just like playing something like Thief, and it's like, well, I got away with this robbery. Let me quick save right quick.
Yeah. Let's get, because I don't want to have to go and do that again. Just make sure I got that out of the way.
Yeah, because games like that, all the planning you have to do before those shots,
and the patience and stuff.
Steps,
For this one, the patience, because you're waiting for that sound masking for the planes to fly over, and you've got to time it correctly and get everything done. So there's all that. Yeah, but anyway, the objective of levels is, okay, do this, and once you do that, that doesn't end the level. It just gives you a second objective. Okay, now you've got to go do this. And once you do that, it gives you another objective, or it throws a tank at you, or it throws something else at you. So before I was to trigger any of those, I would quick save. So one part of this had me go into a building on the map and try and figure out, try and figure something out. So I go in there, I find the documents, and it says, well, the guy's going to have the password to the safe, and he's going to be on the other side of the map. So as soon as I pick that up and read it, an objective marker pops up on the other side of the map where the guy is. And he's got like 5 other guys monitoring, keep him in, watching over him.
Right.
So I go across the map. I see where he's at. I do a quick load of my previous save. So then I go in that house where he's at, and I set up a trip mine because I know he's going to spawn there. And so that'll take him out. So I do that. It takes him out. But there's a couple other guys around, so whatever. I take those guys out too. I have no problem doing that. So I get the code to the safe. Well, then I have to go and meet up with the guy who was helping me out on this mission doing some spotting stuff. I have to meet up with him. Well, you go to meet up with him, but he's dead, and this tank thing comes into the picture, and you have to destroy the tank. So I quick load again. Put my mind down because I know where the tank's going to come. Do that, get out of the way, blow up the tank. Well, then I have to go back, because now I have the combination to the safe. I have to go back in there and get into the safe. Well, at this point, all 3 entry points into the map have a truckload of guys come in. Quick load. Place a mine, place a mine, place a mine. Boom, boom, boom. Take out any leftovers. Great. Once I do that, I have to go back to another section of the map. Once I unlock with the contents of the safe, I have to go back to another section of the map. This time they put snipers in the map. Quick load. Trip mine. Okay, that's where those other 2 guys are going to be, whatever the case.
So you're basically playing Demolitions Elite V3.
Basically, I know it's not the way you should play.
Well, it's there. It's a way you can play, and it is a bit of, I guess if you could be accused of not playing the game the way it's meant to, or whatever.
Exactly,
you're using future knowledge against the game.
Exactly. I'm basically going time machine. And
how many trip mines do you have in your inventory to be doing this over and over?
You get 3, but see, because I had used them so sparingly while I was playing the game, I can go back to these weapon storage places and pick up more. Or when I searched bodies, I didn't pick it up because I was already full of them. So I can go back and search the bodies and get more off of them.
Good.
Basically...
Was the place named like Trip Mine Alley? So
no,
maybe the enemies coming in with
not.
like
Trip Mine Alley, Land Mine Alley, whatever. But that's how I play it now. Is that once because I know it's going to throw this at me, and if you're not prepared for it, you can really jinx your. Look, a tank is very tough to take out with a sniper rifle. You have to have those other things. You have to have landmines or dynamite or something to take it out, and it can be very difficult. So. This game can be very punishing just for the fact that you have to wait. So it's a very wait for the right moment type of game. Extremely, it's so much that it takes me 3 to 4 hours to complete a level, maybe more, over a span of maybe 2 days. Just especially when I start a new level, it takes me a lot because I have to tag the guys, get my bearings, figure out what the sound masking, what form of that comes into play. The next level I'm on right now is an airfield, which you think, hey, lots of sound masking. Yeah. No, it's not. There's none. So I'm trying to play as stealthily as possible to make sure that I'm not triggering any alarms. It's, I enjoy it. I love it. I love it to death. But, that's how I play it. Yeah. So I know it's not the way you're supposed to probably play the thing.
No, I mean, it's given what little bit I've seen of it, it seems like essentially a puzzle game writ large, more or less. Because it is like, okay, I have to make sure I shoot this guy here, but can't have him be on this guy's path over here.
Right.
And then, eventually, kind of solving that little riddle of how do I take out all these guys without setting off any alarms.
There is that, and then there's a fun aspect of that, having to figure out the lay of the land and figuring out how to get by your next objective. The maps are huge, and you're not just doing the one objective. Don't think this is why. This is why I started clearing out the maps. Number one, so I could find all the hidden stuff, and I could just run around and not worry about running into guys. But number two, because the first objective is not the last objective. The first thing will trigger something else. Will trigger something else. Will trigger something else. It's never the one. It's never the one, and you're done. It's the 5 hope you're alive type situation to get through. And so you do yourself a big favor by clearing out the map before you go on to those objectives. Don't think that, great, I'm glad I got through this section, and you've left,
There's no getting
15
by.
other guys around there, because it's likely they're going to put an objective somewhere else out there that's going to have you going back through this.
Yeah, there's no getting through by the skin of your teeth in this game, then.
There
Unless
is
it
in
was
some
like
of
the final objective.
there is in some of the early levels.
Okay.
But in some of the later ones, when they start throwing tanks your way and then throwing other objectives your way, when some of the maps get smaller, some of the maps get larger, it's better. Plus, some of these guys have parts that you can find to upgrade your weapons. So you take them out and you search. You can find parts that upgrade your binoculars so that you can tag more people, so that you can see further in the distance. Some will reduce the recoil of your rifle, will reduce the wobble of your rifle as you're zooming in to take a shot. So there's benefits to doing. There's benefits to taking out every single guy on the map and finding out what they hold. So I got into Sniper Elite 3 at some of that. Played Wayward Manor, like we said, and I've given my thoughts on that. I've added some more people on Pinball Effects 2 who are killing my high scores.
Are you out of the top 10 yet?
I'm sure I am on a lot of tables. I've still got some trophies on some of those tables, but for the most part, I am getting slaughtered. So I put some more efforts into Pinball Effects 2 to kind of regain some of that stuff.
You haven't unfriended anybody because of that?
No, I haven't.
Has it been a temptation for you?
That's worse than using Time Machine and Sniper Elite 3 to go back in time and fix what killed me. No, I'm not going to do that. You know what? I've thought about it, but the more I think about it, the more I like having people on there because it gives me a goal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Look, if I own the high score of all those tables, I'd have no reason to play them. Mm-hmm. The reason I play is to get back up there on the
Well, you can look at it as like somebody else did it, so
yeah,
I can get up there with enough time and dedication.
It's fun to have that challenge, and I enjoy that, and so that's why I'm not going to remove anybody who adds me on there who's really killing me. It gives me a reason to go back to some of these tables that I've already hit tops on and go back and try and get the top spot on, and I enjoy doing that. So I appreciate everybody who adds me on there. I appreciate everybody who is kicking me all over the place on Pinball Effects 2. You're making my game better. So, by all means, as a fighting guy, probably understand something like that, where you would...
It's like I've always said, there's only so much you can learn playing against the computer.
Yeah.
Play some other people and see how good you are.
Yeah, exactly, man. If I didn't have these leaderboards and I was just trying to top the high scores that are already set on the tables that they do, we'd be done. I'd be like, well, when's the next table coming out? I do that anyway. Which, by the way, they just released... I tell you what, we'll talk about that in a moment because we're getting close here, and I want to finish out what I was talking about. So Pinball Effects 2, and I want to thank one of our listeners who is in the chat room right now, Medusa's Mira. She sent us a book. It came to the station.
Okay.
And she sent us a book called Console Wars. It's by Blake J. Harris. And I am at chapter 16 on that right now. I'm on page 120.
What exactly is this?
I was going into that.
Yeah.
It documents. So far, it's really heavily focused on Sega, but it documents the Nintendo and Sega battle from the 16-bit age.
Yeah, I heard a little bit about this because there was back a month or two ago at MomoCon, there were a bunch of Sega reps there, and one of the things they were talking about was Sega versus Nintendo, what they did as far as like their advertising.
Yeah,
and such.
Sega did some bold stuff back then that the execs was like considering there's no way you can do this. You can't possibly do this. And
I just read that. I just read where the head of Sega of America flew over to Sega of Japan and said, "Look, here's my outline on how we're going to tackle this."
Tom Kalinske, right?
Yes.
Tom Kalinske, previously head of Mattel, I think?
Tom Kalinske.
Tom Kalinske, yeah.
Head of Mattel, yes. He just went over, I'm at the part where he just went over to Sega Japan and said, look, I know that you guys are big on the Sonic game. I know that you're like, this is going to be our Mario killer, but we're not going to sell it. We're going to pack it in with the system.
Yeah. It's kind of like that culture shock of American way of business and Japan's way of business. It's just... yeah,
because it was like, you don't talk bad about the company, but then, Sega can when Nintendo don't.
Sega does when Nintendo don't.
But see, that's what brought me into the the thing of when I said Nintendo likes to have their control, because I was reading about their license agreement back when they were doing the NES, and oh my god, it was how the hell did they, I mean, obviously they got away with it because they were the top dogs there, and they were really the only one that, you want your game on a system that people play, you come to us, and you just got to play by our rules if you want to do that. I don't know how somebody could get away with that today, but I mean they were like, look,
they were very strict on what to be in the game.
We're going to take a huge percentage of your sales from the game that go to us. You've got to buy the cartridges. We're the only ones who manufacture the cartridges, so you have to buy them from us when you make them. And so they just had and also you cannot put your game on any other system. You can't put it out there on any other system. So this is a fascinating book. I am at the part right now where the Famicom was just released in Japan. The Super Famicom was released in Japan.
All right.
I am at that chapter now where it was just released in Japan, and he and Tom is going around trying to hit up Walmart again to say, look, will you please stock our game? Look, we've got a system of the Super Famicom. This is what's going to be over here as the Super NES when it gets released here. Look how much better ours is towards theirs. Look at this, and Walmart's not having any of it. Nintendo's been good to them, so Walmart's like, nope, we're not going to do it. Yeah. So I'm just in that section of the book. Fascinating book. It's by Blake J. Harris. I am in talks with him to have him on the show. He opened up. This guy's doing a ton of stuff. He opened up a play this weekend that he's at, so he couldn't be on the show. He'll be at Comic-Con next week, so he can't be on the show next week. So
because you know, we're certainly more important than Comic-Con.
Oh God, and so he'll be on the show probably the week after that is what I'm pushing for to have him on, and hopefully I'll be done with the book by then. I'm pretty sure that I will be because of how fascinating it is. God, it is very fascinating. I was not aware of any of this stuff at the time. I didn't know that the original Sonic had fangs and a big boobed girlfriend or whatever, and was this weird creature before he became what he was. I wasn't aware of any of this stuff. This the Nintendo seal of approval. I didn't know what all went behind that seal as far as like.
Oh yeah, the reason not just that, but like content control over what you speak in product. Nintendo has a big thing about any kind of religious iconography or any kind of violence, really.
Yeah,
it was just like, nope, you don't have that in your game. No, because we say so.
No blood, no violence, none of that stuff.
Yeah, and it's just amazing him trying to come in and do this with Sega, who was, so not necessarily set in their ways, but it's one culture designing to sell in another culture.
Yeah,
and it's hard to change. It's very hard to change their minds to say, look, this is not. It may work here, but it's just not going to work over here. Mm-hmm. You've got to change that up. So it's just really fascinating. It's a great book. I suggest it to everybody, but we'll talk more about that when we have him on the show. But again, that's Console Wars. It's by Blake J. Harris. It's all over the place. Audiobook, Kindle, ebook, everything. Bookstores everywhere. And thank you to Medusa's Mira, who is in the chat room right now. Thank you so much for sending that book to us. I had it in my my cart in Amazon. I wasn't waiting for the price to go down. I was like, do I want to pick this up hardback or do I want to get it for Kindle? I was juggling which way I wanted to get it. And then when it showed up, I was like, oh, this is great. This is perfect. Decision made. I love when decisions are made for me. And I don't have to sit there and think. So I appreciate her doing that for us. So thank you so much for sending that to us. We'll go over the chat room roll call here just after the break in the next hour. And if you would like to be on the show, if you would like to talk to us, give us a call, 334-272-9228. Coming up next hour, we've got a list of things that I don't even know if we'll get to, but we've got so much. We've got the Microsoft layoffs where they, laid off this horrible 18,000 people laid off.
Over the next 6 months, 18,000.
Which is just mind-blowing, the amount of people who are going to be out of a job. Included in that is Xbox Entertainment Studios. We'll talk about that. Sony's thinking of doing early access on the PS4. Mm-hmm. That's a horrible idea. We'll talk about that. And which kind of leads into the next thing, the whole Yogcast, or is that what it is?
Yogcast, Yog Ventures Kickstarter.
Yog Ventures, the Kickstarter thing. We'll talk some about that as well. If you'd like to get any of your opinions in on these topics or any others that we haven't gone over, please give us a call, 334-272-9228. We'll be back with the second hour of In-Game Chat in just a moment. Right now, here is music from Outrunners. We'll be right back. And welcome back to In-Game Chat, our second hour of the show. That is music from, you want to take it, RJ?
Panzer Dragoon.
That is correct. Panzer Dragoon. Thanks for that. I think that's one of yours as well, isn't it?
Yep, Sega.
Thanks for that. Of course, Sega. You would be interested in this book.
Yes. Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah, I would be.
For Console Wars, you would be interested. And of course, I will gladly throw it over to you as soon as I'm done with it.
Appreciate it.
Yes, but yeah, it's really... just really fascinating to know all the stuff that had to happen for this. And I haven't finished it yet, so I really don't know how far it goes. I don't know what happens. So obviously the big thing is the release, and then where does it go from there? So I'm curious to find out myself. Just to kind of go back to what I'd been doing this week, I'd forgotten to mention what I did most of today, which is play the Destiny beta on PS4.
So... any difference so far? Or
I like it much better than I did the alpha. I would say it's almost essentially the same game, with the exception of the fact that this one really starts you off proper. The game opening and everything else is...
because the alpha was kind of like, just kind of sets you down in a mission to begin with.
This puts a lot more context into what you're doing, and it's a lot, which for me, it helps me to get into the game better this way than it did with the alpha. And so I am loving it. I really, really am. I am loving it. I kind of wish we weren't doing the streaming afterwards. I could just go home and play it there, or that I brought it in here so I could play more of it and level up my character and stuff. But no, it's great. I love it. I think I love it because of the potential that I'm going to have when the game releases. That is going to be a lot of fun to get everybody together and do that, playing the game. I mean, there's people playing it now, but I haven't really been able to dip my toe into the partner play of getting a group together and doing some of these things. So, but it's better. It sounds like they did a little digitization on Dinklage's voice.
Yeah, they did either some ADR or some.
Yeah. I don't know if it's any better or worse. I think the more I hear it, obviously, the more it sounds like, well, this is what it's supposed to sound like, maybe, but...
No, I mean, fair enough. The previous version was an alpha. It is... So... obviously some change could happen, whether it was in response to people making fun of it or whatnot, whatever.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about it. I'm having fun enough to not really care about his voice acting. I'm having enough fun that I don't have to worry about that. Got my ship. I got my little vehicle when I'm on the land or when I'm down on the ground. And I'm having fun. I played a game with one of our listeners, Star Stealer. I played a little bit with him. For some reason, I couldn't get my chat working, but, through the emotes, he was like, if you can hear me, point at me. And, I did the emote to point and that sort of stuff. So, we were fine. But I've enjoyed it a lot. It's on PS4 until Monday, and then it's also on Xbox One and PS4, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Monday or Tuesday, it'll hit on Xbox One. And...
Which they said they are not going to be running full 1080p on Xbox One during the beta.
No.
They said they are going to try to get it up for the release, though.
Yeah. And then it ends next Sunday. So next Saturday after the show, I think Nate is bringing in his PS4. I might bring in my PS4 to hook it up to that TV. We've got 2 TVs in the studio. And so what you guys can't see, the guys on the camera, is that there's the TV that you see right there. That says in-game chat on it. And then what I'm looking at right now is another TV that has our faces on it while we're doing the recording. But, so yeah, we'll have a TV for his PS4 or a TV for my PS4. We'll hook it up. We'll play. It should be a lot of fun. But I'm really, really enjoying it. Getting the different pieces of armor, upgrading the pieces of armor, upgrading your character, all that stuff. Really a lot of fun. So... hopefully you guys are getting in on it as well if you can. Cavalier says it sounds the same, only they've added some beeps and boops to it. Yeah, I agree. Actually, I don't think they went back and did any other recording. I think they just added some digitization to his voice and then put it back in there. I think they heard I think the alpha was exactly the way we were supposed to hear it. I think they were done with that. I don't think they had any ADR they had to go back and pick up. I think they were actually done with it. And due to the complaints that they got, they're like, okay, well, let's do what we can. They may have brought him back in for some later stuff. I don't know. But I don't think they did. I think they just digitized his voice a little bit and then gave it back to him and put it back out there. I know that I've done some stuff on commercials and things where somebody will say, hey, could you change the little thing? And I will tweak it the tiniest bit and say, does that sound any different? Because I don't hear what they're hearing, and I've done it enough to know that I can hear this or I can't.
Yeah.
And I'll send it back and I'll say, how about now? And I've done the tiniest of things that normally you wouldn't be able to tell. And they're like, oh, yeah, it sounds great. So if you just tell them that it's changed, sometimes people will buy that it's changed.
Oh, yeah.
I don't buy it.
Sometimes they want multiple takes to, take to their supervisor to be like, which one of these do you like? All sorts of manner of things in that.
Yeah, and I just don't think they did anything different, but other than the fact that they've processed it a little bit, and then and then put it back in the game. But anyway, Destiny, loving it. So if you've got a PS4 or an Xbox One or something, I hope you get into it. You can pre-order the game and get a code to do that. I've got one extra code for the beta that I guess I could throw in the chat room. I'd love to get an idea of people in the chat room. In fact, let's go over the list. We haven't done the chat room roll call, so let's do that now. Arioka is in the chat room. Cavalier UK, Lavos, Digital Hughes, hey Jason, Cali Synth, Night Eye is in there, Medusa's Mirror, again, thanks for the book. Me with a bunch of numbers is in the chat room. Thanks as well for joining us. Omega's Innocence, STM Fuller, Taxius59, W. Matthew, and Zufu. I would love to know from the folks in the chat room if you guys would like me to throw a code out there to you for the PS4. We can do it that way, or we can just throw it up on our Twitter page.
Throw up on Twitter if nobody in the chat room.
Yeah, because if you're in the chat room, we'd love it for you guys to have it because you are joining us live, and we do appreciate that. So I can put that in the chat room, or we can just give it away on Twitter. But I'd like to see if there's because a lot of people who want to do this beta
are pretty much in there
already in there. Because everybody who got into the beta got 3 extra codes, or got 2 extra codes to give away to friends. So, and there were so many code giveaways for this thing. I think this is their stress test for the servers. This is like, let's put everybody in there, as many people as we can. So I'm not exactly sure that it won't just be open pretty soon for people to get in, pre-order or not. I'm not entirely sure that they don't do that towards the end of the beta. Just be like, everybody into the beta. That's the other thing. I was like, I don't know how many people in the chat room have a PS4, so throwing it out to them may not be the best things to do.
Well,
So
we'll suss it out.
anyway, speaking of Sony, they're thinking of putting early access games on the PS4.
Yeah, it's let's see, is there
I know Xbox is thinking of it too, but let's just focus on the PS4 for the moment.
one of the executives at Sony
Adam
of
Boyce
America,
was the name. Yeah.
yeah, basically said they're trying to look into doing something along the lines of Steam Early Access for PS4 developers.
Yeah.
Which I don't have a problem with. Because, I mean, okay, it's like, they'll put out buggy things that will clearly not be ready to run. It's like, that already happens. They're just not labeled early access. They're labeled as full releases. They're labeled Watch Dogs, for example. It already happens. This is just a means of codifying it. And I've seen some people say, well, it just encourage developers to be lazy and not put out a game and want money for it. It's like, if the developer is that bad to begin with, they're already doing that. It's just this is a way of codifying it and saying, hey, this is a thing, it's not complete, put it out there. It's like, I don't necessarily see what the difference is with, like, the not necessarily imaginary complaints, but like a bit hyperbolic about the complaints about what early access will destroy a console.
No, it's not. It's not going to be. It's. I kind of agree with you on that, and I'm not saying it's gloom and doom that they put it out there, because it's obviously my decision on whether I put the money in and buy it. I'm already kind of set aside to say, what, I'm not going to do early access.
Yeah.
There's enough of there. It's one of the things I like about Steam is that you can do reviews. So even on an early access game, I can scroll down and read people's thoughts, which is something I should have done when I bought Snow. I was looking for something for the Oculus Rift, and Snow has Oculus Rift support. And I was like, it's early access, I'll pick it up. Had I gone down and read the reviews, I would have saw where people said this game's not ready, broken. And when I played it, it was broken. It was horrible. I'm sure they've updated it since then. I've seen some tweets from the devs, or at least the publishers, on it saying that, here's our next update for Snow, that sort of thing. So I should go back and look at it. And it was also during a sale is why I picked it up as well. So I didn't have to pay full price. There are games I think that are still in early access that are probably worth spending the money on if you really want to play them. And then I think there are some duds. But it always takes someone to go out there to buy it to figure out if it's a dud. And they're going to be disappointed, and then they've got to post that review.
Well, yeah, but I mean, again, that already happens. We already go out and buy duds and find negative reviews for stuff that is bad. It's like, what changes with adding early access to it?
I would say the amount. I would have to say the amount.
Yeah, that's entirely possible, but whose responsibility is it to judge whether that is a bad game? Then is it on us to figure out like which games are bad, or is that up to, say, Sony or Microsoft or whoever it is to determine, like, well, this is bad, it can't be really released on this?
I don't know how Steam does it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know.
Yeah, but I know that Adam from PS4, and I would think Xbox probably would take the same stance, is that he says, when they talk about this, he says that games would still have to go through a lot of criteria and meet a lot of criteria to get on the system, because they don't want angry customers buying things and then have that angry backlash. The fact that they haven't done it yet gives them an advantage to see how it's been done on Steam and to see what the repercussions are of failing at that or succeeding. Either way. So it might expand your library, but it also might hurt the trust of customers in giving money to that program, to that early access, anything that's on early access.
Well, I mean, and that's the other thing is, with this early access program, presumably all of it's going to be digital. At least it won't be like a retail release, which, even though we've seen, I think, one thing in the UK come out and say, hey, this is an early access game, because I think it was like through Steam. I don't even remember the title now. I just remember seeing a big box art saying early access game. This does count as your purchase for a full release of the full game as well. But presumably all these would be just digital available through PSN or Xbox Live, and that is a bit of a presumption to make.
Yeah. So I mean, it's up to them obviously to
Yeah.
make those decisions on what is bad, because if they look at it and say, well, this game is nowhere near, we would love to put it on early access, but you guys aren't at that stage yet. So get to that stage, then we'll put you there. I think there's a few early access games that have not failed, but are still available to buy, even though there is a disclaimer saying, look, the developer has stopped working on this game.
Yeah, and that's the main thing I would want is like a very huge label saying, hey, this is early access, or in that particular case.
Yeah,
hey,
Towns. CaliSynth. It was Towns.
Towns? Okay.
Yes, it's the one. The developer straight up said, I've stopped working on it. I'm moving on to the sequel. So you're not going to get any more updates from me on this. And I think there was a lot of people who were very upset about that.
I mean, I understand, but were they swindled into it? I mean, were they fooled into thinking it's not an early access title?
No,
Did they not
weren't.
understand what early access meant? I mean, I could see that as being a very plausible reason for being angry about it.
Well, what does early access mean?
Good question. Exactly.
Does early access mean that you will get a final product?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the matter. You know, what does Steam guarantee as far as that goes?
See, I don't know. This is why I kind of hate the program being out there. I'd rather it just not exist than have to deal with all the different aspects of, getting what I paid for. Because, I look at Prison Architect, a Kerbal space program. I think Kerbal may be in early access. I think,
isn't Kerbal out of it now?
It may be out of it. Prison Architect is like $30 retail, and it's still in early access. Town, I'm not exactly sure, I'm not exactly sure how much Towns was to begin with. I've seen it on sale a bunch of times. But I'm not exactly sure what the full price of that game was. So there's some risk reward. I spend $10 on your game, and it doesn't get complete. I'm not so burned out about it. Okay, well, $10. I learned my lesson there. I spend $30 on your game, and it doesn't get finished. I might get upset.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't be upset, but it's kind of like I kind of feel like if you knew it was early access, you should have kind of known that
you're already spinning the wheel of chance.
Yeah, you should have known You should have known there's a chance the swimming pool is going to be empty at the bottom of the dive, just because that's kind of the nature of it.
Which is why I avoid early access, and sometimes I hate that because there are some games on early access that I really want.
I think Divinity Original Sin was early access
Was
during the Steam sale.
Was that a Kickstarter or was that early access?
I don't know. I know when I looked it up on the Steam sale, it was still labeled early access until just after the Steam sales when they had the full release. But it was like one of those ones, wouldn't mind. It looks like something I'd be interested in. It's got that early access though, so I
think Divinity actually started out as a Kickstarter and then moved in a lot like Wasteland 2 right now is in early access. But it was also a Kickstarter.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly on its history, unfortunately. But
so let me ask you this: what a Kickstarter that fails and an early access that isn't completed, which one is worse?
That's a good question.
I don't like either of them really. I don't like it when things just kind of
a Kickstarter that fails means you never. We'd have to put some context around what you mean by failing. But a Kickstarter that, let's say, Kickstarter that fails,
if the goal is completed, if their initial goal is completed, but
if they made all their money and they get,
but you never got a product,
you didn't get the product that not quite what it was said.
That's why I'm going to say. That's where I'm going to say Kickstarter's probably worse.
Okay,
or it could be different. I would say that it depends on the person who spent that money. Which one's worse for their personal preference, because Kickstarter fails, they don't get to play it. That's bad. Early access game gets out there, you do get to play it, but it never finishes. Would you have rather not had the experience altogether so that you wouldn't know that, man, what might have been type situation? Because if I got my hands on a really great game that had tons of potential of being this really awesome thing if they get to finish it, but they never finish it, and you kind of sit there, it's a lot like looking back at Watch Dogs from November during the E3 thing and saying, man, look at how pretty this game is. Look at what all it could do. And then it gets released and it's like, look at how horrible this game is. It's a shame that we got this preview of Utopia, but here we are in the slums.
And I mean, it depends. Like if all you played was like the original Quake 1 demo and the full game of Quake never came out, would you feel worse off for that? Just, I guess that's like the closest thing, and certainly not every title is going to be as polished as the Quake 1 demo was, which was just like a couple of levels out of the entire game. It's hard to like just lay down a one judgment on all early access.
Personally, for me, a Kickstarter fail is worse.
Yeah,
to me, because I was giving them money with the promise of getting a product, getting reward tiers, getting a lot of stuff back from that, and it never happened. None of it happened. Whereas with early access, I paid some money and did get a thing, but it may just not have finished. So I still got something. It may not have been worth what my money, what I think my money would have been.
That's what I was about to say. I mean, it's an investment. You put your time, your money in, and you just didn't get.
Yeah, and it's still a matter of you invested this money and you gave money to this developer, and they're like, nope, don't care no more.
That just make you be a little more, I don't know, cautious in the future or reluctant to join anything.
I mean, that's just that is probably the solution for it. Is just you have to give everything the hairy eyeball. You look at, particularly if it's somebody who's been on Kickstarter and has failed projects, like you're doing something else, but you really failed really badly at this. Yeah. Why should I give you money again? It does make me just a little bit sympathetic towards publishers sometimes when they say, well, we had to shut this down because they kept coming back for money and we didn't get a finished product. Yeah. It's like, you throw enough money at a thing and it's like, yeah, we can't deliver. We need more money. And it's kind of like, really? You didn't plan out properly, I guess? So
I mean, this this conversation, we're going to continue this after the break, because I wanted to talk about the Yogscast, the Yog Ventures thing. I kind of want to go into that because there's some. This is an example of.
It's an example of something going badly wrong.
This is an example of how a Kickstarter can go very, very wrong. I can't say that this is how early access could go wrong, because they are different. They are different situations. With this Yogcast thing, the guys got nothing. Well, they got some stuff, but we'll go into it.
You got something.
Yeah.
Definitely not what you were promised.
Yeah, but like I said, Kickstarter, you're promised one thing. Early access, you actually do get your thing. You just may not get a finished thing. But you get something with early access. Kickstarter is not necessarily the case. The other thing interesting about a Kickstarter, I go back to Wasteland 2. Matt is somebody who funded that, or it may have been a different game, so don't take my word on this, but he put the funds in, and his tier was that he'll get, not early access, but he'll get the game before it releases. But he will get the game. However, they get on early access, and that wasn't part of the thing. So there's people out there right now who can pick up the game during a Steam sale on early access and pay less than what he paid during his Kickstarter and be able to play the game.
Yeah, but I mean, there wasn't anything like saying, well, early access is locked down to these people and that's it.
As far as I know, they did not plan to do early access. Yeah. And I think this was Wasteland 2, and I could be wrong. But from what I understand, they didn't plan actually to do early access during the Kickstarter. When the Kickstarter ended, they did put themselves up on early access eventually. But nobody who was backing that, there was no reward tier that said you will get early access to the game when we put it on Steam. So all of those people who donated the money are still getting the game when it's finished.
Well, I mean,
but are not getting it while it's in early access. So there's still the opportunity for people who never put into the Kickstarter, who never contributed to the making of this game, getting it during a Steam sale. Regularly, I think it's like $20, getting it for $10.
That's kind of unusual if they're not giving the early access to the people who did get the game.
I believe that's the case, and
that sounds
really could be wrong.
Really kind of unusual. Yeah, I don't know. We need to look up on that because that doesn't sound right at all.
Yeah,
I certainly wouldn't expect it out of the Wasteland 2 devs. Not that kind of thing.
That's what I'm thinking. I could be insanely wrong on that, but it did happen with some game of his that Matt had put in money to do for Kickstarter, and he couldn't be part of the early access. He didn't get a code to get in that, but he already put his money in to get the final product of the game, and so But yeah, anyway, we're going to take a break, and then we come back. We will talk about that Kickstarter fail for the Yogcast. W. Matthew says, I'm surprised you didn't talk about it. I'd love to know what he's talking about.
I think it was the 1 minute Smash Brothers thing you mentioned in the chat room.
Oh yeah,
the 1 minute beatdown in Smash Brothers.
There was a question. Zuka said a favorite moment in there, and someone
we didn't hit your favorite moments of Evo.
Oh yeah, well that was one.
What happened in that?
It was a match, a Smash Brothers match, and I forget who the other competitor was, but someone was playing Pikachu and took out this dude's stock in like just under a minute. Like all 4 of his characters just gone in
wow
less than a minute in that game. I think the time was like 7 or 8 minutes. But it was done in one or less.
Did you have any other favorite moments from?
Just some pretty much some good matches from Street Fighter, but that's what stood out for me.
The 1 minute beatdown?
Yeah, 1 minute beatdown.
All right, well, we'll be back with more of In-Game Chat. If you would like to get in on the conversation, you can. Give us a call, 334-272-9228. That is 334-272-9228. Like I said, we'll talk about the Yogcast Kickstarter fail. There's a huge thing about that, and we'll go over some of the things that we're going to be doing next week, what we're going to be playing. We'll talk about the stream that we're going to be doing after the show. We would love some game suggestions on what to play when we're done with the show. If you guys have any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. And we'll be back in just a moment with more in-game chat. Here is music from Bayonetta. We'll be right back. And welcome back to In-Game Chat for the final segment of the show. That is music from Phantasy Star Universe. Mm-hmm. And we had an issue with the music that we were playing just a moment ago as we were going into the break. RJ wasn't too sure that was from Bayonetta. And I was like, man, these are the tracks you gave me.
Yep.
So I put them as that. What was the deal?
I must have mislabeled that one. I must have wanted a good track from Space Harrier, and it was in Bayonetta's soundtrack.
Why was Space Harrier in Bayonetta's soundtrack?
Because there's an homage to Space Harrier in one of the levels of Bayonetta. Where she's riding a rocket like you are in Space Harrier, where you're like carrying a rocket to going through the stages and whatnot.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Well, it said Bayonetta, so if I got it wrong, my apologies. I don't know. I didn't know for sure.
You just read on screen. It's probably my labeling thing or something, but whatever.
So I don't know. But welcome back to the show. We're going to talk about this. This thing with the Yogcast and the Yog Ventures. They teamed up with a company called Wintercool?
Wintercool Games.
Wintercool Games to make a game based on characters of theirs. And it was going to be, I mean, obviously they're called the Yogcast, and they were going to make a game called Yog Ventures. So this was going to be something that they were going to do, and they've made a Kickstarter for it. And let's go. I'm going to go directly to the Kickstarter right now.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a open world sandbox adventure game.
Yeah, which sounds great.
Yeah,
they needed $250,000. They got $567,665 to make this game.
Over 13,000 people backing them.
13,647 backers. So what happened after, let's see, this was back in, hang on, let me look at the funding period here.
Funded May 6, 2012.
Yeah, the funding period was from April 6th to May 6th. This was in 2012. So I think it was sometime last year when updates started drying up and they started not updating the Kickstarter and not updating anything about the progress of the game.
Yeah, because they did post an update regarding this news recently, but the last update before that was August 28th, 2013. So almost a year of no updates coming out of this game.
And finally, they got the final update on that was that, look, we don't have the money to finish this game.
Wintercool actually said we're probably going to have to declare bankruptcy over this. And they essentially said, game's not coming out. Sorry. And
this is the risk you run with some Kickstarters. I mean, obviously, if you're going to do a Kickstarter, and I've done some myself, you need to be very careful with the ones that you do. You need to, it's the people that's involved with it, you have to be very careful.
Yeah, I mean, it's your money being invested in something and not necessarily guaranteed a return. Right.
I mean, if you go to the comments of this, there's a lot of people who are very angry. Now, they did do, from what I understand, they did try and do some things. Instead of the game, you got a key to a different game. What is it called?
Tug.
An open world survivor game. It's currently being developed by Nerd Kingdom,
which is supposed to be their new, I guess, programming partner of some kind.
Right. Incidentally, the Nerd Kingdom signed an agreement deal with Yogcast to be partners on the project. I'm not saying there's any kind of there's hokey stuff going on. It just feels like there's hokey stuff going on.
Well, it feels more like they made this deal. It fell through, and now they've got this new deal in Nerd Kingdom just because, it's somebody else they can work with. But I don't see how anybody who backed this Kickstarter could get behind anything Yogcast does after this event.
I mean, no. One of the statements they said, what was it? We are not obligated to do anything.
Yeah,
but we're going to work our best to try to make this right.
And
anybody who starts off a thing that says we're not obligated to do this, but we're going to do it for you to make it sound like we're really good guys. We don't have to do this, but we're going to do it.
Hey,
if you want to start off that way, I'll give you the finger.
Good old corporate speak, because
I'll give you the finger with a lot of other stuff that I can't say on the radio right now. You don't start it off that way. I don't care if it's. Guess what? It is your obligation to. I want to look at this. Look at the. Let me look at the tiers. Let me look at the different tiers that they.
We hate what happened to you. We just don't want to be responsible for it. That's all.
Okay, let me start at the $15 was the beginner. You could not donate less than $15. 7,000 people put in $15. Fine. 3,000 people put in $25. 750 put in $30. 960 put in $60. It's getting worse, folks. $90. There were 980 of those people who put in $90. The next one up from that was $200. There was 90 some odd of those. $300. There were 120 people who put in $300. $500, 37. $750, 36. $2,000. There was one person who put that in. $5,000. There were 5 people who put in $5,000. $10,000, which is the final tier. 5 people put in $10,000 of their money for this thing that failed. They will not get their money back. They will not get anything of what they asked to get from this. That tier included all previous, and I don't know how much of that was, including a walk-on role in Shadow of whatever that is. I don't know what that is. Have lunch with the Yogcast. You and a guest will be invited to join Simon, Lewis, and members of the development team to talk about the game, solve the final the finer points of Jaffa Cake consumption and everything else. You'll also get the opportunity to pick up some exclusive swag, posts for pictures with the gang. We suggest and have the greatest lunchtime of your life. The event can be scheduled either during this year's E3 or later this year in England. You will need to provide your own travel arrangements. I don't know if they ever went through with that, but that would have been a cool tier to have. But you've already put in $10,000, but you're not getting the game. Whatever all the other previous stuff was that you would get with that $10,000, I don't know what it all was. I'm sure there was stuff in the game that you would have gotten that you're not going to get. Mm-hmm. So it's I don't know. I don't blame Winter Cool Games on this.
I mean,
a part of me, actually, I take that back. Part of me, I think it's a joint thing, obviously.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can kind of blame Winter Cool, and according to a little bit on the Kickstarter update, they did have some events that were beyond their control. Just a little bit I read was something about an artist not being able to get out of a deal they had made with being recently hired and being able to work for them.
They only had 6 people.
Yeah.
To do this game.
It was you could say poor management on their part. You know, Yog put their name behind this, said, we're getting out a game. So, yeah, it does reflect poorly on them. It does reflect poorly on their decisions in what they did, regardless of where the blame overall lies. They did stake their reputation on this game.
Yeah.
Right now on the phone, STM Fuller is with us, and you wanted to call in and talk about exactly what we're talking about now, the Kickstarter failing thing, right?
Yeah, Kickstarters are at least for games. I mean, we've seen some really good ones, but it's kind of funny. It seems like it's mostly corporate. I hate to say corporate welfare, but you're essentially giving this money to these people, and yeah, you're getting the game back, but you're not. But you're getting the money way in advance, almost like you're investing in the company. And really, at that point, shouldn't you, basically be an investor?
Yeah, I mean, you are kind of an investor in that situation, and I would love for some of these people who are putting their money in to actually talk to investors who will tell them that you win some, you lose some. It is like it's like Vegas.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not any different from what big money investors have dealt with in the past on any number of projects that just fall through.
Big money investors are going in on a promise. They're going in on a pitch. Somebody says, "Look, we're going to make this thing, but we need your money to do it. And when it's done, and when it's finished, it's going to make you tons of money, more money than what you're putting in.
Yeah,
you got to give us this money for us to do this, but it's still a gamble."
Well, and it stings all the more because this is the people who would be interested in this, who are genuinely interested, not just as like I want to like put out something that makes me much money. It's like people saying, "I want this game," and throwing that money behind it. Not as, and there's they see it as like an investment in this game's future, and to have that just suddenly be like, nope, doesn't exist anymore. It really does. It really does kind of hurt.
Yeah, and Callie Sen says that they aren't obligated. I understand that they're not obligated.
Oh, yeah.
And they really could just say, sorry, too bad. Or they could do what they did without saying at the beginning of it, we're not obligated to do this, but here we're helping you out. That wasn't really my problem, was it that they... Or I understand that they're not obligated to do anything. So just don't do it if you're not going to do anything. But if you are going to do something, don't start it off saying that we don't have to do this, but we're doing it as a favor to you.
Well, I mean, certainly they don't have the obligation, but they certainly can take the criticism for their decisions.
That just sounds like an a-hole. That's what that sounds like.
It just seems like it's a bad money, a bad use of money. I mean, the way I look at kind of Kickstarters or early access is you look at kind of the gold standard, which in my opinion is Minecraft. And I put in money, I immediately had something to play with, and had not just said, well, whatever, and given up on it, I'd have gotten my money's worth out of it. In this case, you're putting money down. You're not getting anything in return. You're hoping that you get something in return eventually, but it's just there's too much risk, quite frankly, for something that's for basically for an unknown.
How many have you backed any Kickstarters?
I have been very leery for exactly Yoke Ventures refund. Very, very, very leery. I've looked at a couple of things, not game related, but it just never enough to put the money down.
I have backed. I don't know a specific number. Wait a second. I'm on Kickstarter's site. I can look.
Yeah, I'll say I backed 2 projects. One was a game called Word Realms.
I always forget the internet exists sometimes.
One was a game called Word Realms that came out a couple of years ago now. That was really good. Another one was my wife wanted me to invest in like some somebody she had met does a webcomic and put out some plush dolls, and she wanted to get those. So I put some money behind that and got the last of those. This actually 2 weeks ago. So I've had no problem, but I've only invested in 2 and not anything like Yogg or even like the Wasteland or Torment Kickstarters. Nothing really, really huge and awe-inspiring.
Yeah, I've done. Let's see. I've done 21 projects. I've kickstarted 21 projects. I've had 2 projects that have failed. However, they failed without getting. They didn't meet their goal. In other words, I got my money back.
Yeah.
I'm going through and seeing. There's some pinball stuff. There's.
So dumb question on this one. Do you generally put in a lot of money or a little bit of money, or is it money that's...
If people could see the camera and see on my screen, I don't know, they'd have to zoom in pretty good to see some of the amounts. I'm not going to tell you some of the amounts that I put in, because some of these... I look back and I'm like, I'm an idiot.
I know what you spent on some things.
I'm an idiot.
I'm sure there's like... I wouldn't be surprised if there was a 4-digit one. I really wouldn't. I would not put it past.
You did not put a house note in a Kickstarter, did you?
I did not I didn't put a house note in a Kickstarter.
Here, have my deed.
I put in most of these end with the number 0 or 5, but they are 2-digit numbers. No, let's see. $25 for the very first one I did. I put in $25, the very first one, and that was probably my mistake. But it's for a game called The Dead Linger, and I have a copy of it. It's on Steam now.
Yeah, that's an early access title. Isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it is. But I got my copy to play it, or I got my code to play it. $10 for Pinball Arcade Star Trek: The Next Generation table. $15 for Sports Friends, which just released on the PS4, and I have that. $25 for a film made entirely out of puppets. It's called, and I'll give some of this promotion because I think it's awesome.
The film itself is made out of puppets, or is a film starring nothing but puppets?
Nothing but puppets.
Okay,
yeah, it's
called an important difference right there.
It's called The Mill at Calder's End. It's a horror. It's a ghost story, but with puppets.
Yeah.
And they did this. One of the things you got with putting in your money was their short film from a little while ago, or ever how long ago. It has Christopher Lloyd's voice, and it has Frodo, Elijah Wood, and it's fantastic. I loved it. Let's see, $45 for Torment: Tides of Numenera, Road Redemption. Put $30 in there. I put $50 in for Code Monkey Save World. That's the Jonathan Colton comic book thing. $120 for Energy Hook. That gets us a billboard with our logo on it inside the game.
So I guess the question is like, had for example, the one that you put $120 in, they've been like, sorry, it's not going to happen.
I'd be very disappointed. We had the guy on the show. I'd be extremely disappointed. And it might have steered me away from putting in money from these other Kickstarters that have done so well.
Yeah, it just seems like a weird way to do things, and then it just doesn't seem like the right way to, I don't know, to get a product to market. for some reason. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, probably not for some things, but when
it certainly isn't ideal.
when the guys from
consumer.
when the guys from Cyan Worlds put up Abduction, you think I was going to back away from that? No.
But it's also you base that on the
I
name
base that on
and
their
the reputation.
Right.
Of it.
There's a that's why you should be selective if you're going to do these things. I mean, I don't know about you, Fuller, but you may have. Is there a developer that you have a favorite developer type out there, or maybe a favorite game franchise that you have? That if they did a Kickstarter, you would be hard pressed to not kind of put in some money for it.
I would be more interested in doing a Kickstarter for someone known,
Right.
for known quantity.
Yeah.
Because it's like the what was it, the Broken Age,
Yeah.
the Double Fine stuff
Yeah,
like
Tim
that.
Schafer,
That
yeah.
was, that was pretty much a guaranteed thing. I mean, you knew he was going to put the game out. It was more of a.
But I believe he had to come back and ask for more money. Did he not?
He did.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, he came back later on. Film was like, yeah, we kind of overshot what we were going to do, so we need more money. And there was a bit of backlash against that, but other people were like, well, we want the game, so it wasn't a like, oh well, we're not going to finish if we don't get this money. It's like, could you just please throw a few extra bucks our way and help us get this out the door?
Yeah, it sounds like the Oddcast thing was completely. Oh well, I guess we just don't feel like making this anymore. Bye.
I don't know. The well ran dry for them as far as money. There were 6 people trying to put the game together. It's likely we'll never find out unless somebody wants to break their silence on that.
Yeah, I mean,
and it could easily happen.
There is an update on the Yog Adventures Kickstarter from one of the leads at Wintercool, which
when did it update? Today?
Just yesterday. So we didn't get in the news.
Okay,
We haven't had a chance to read it at all. So there might be some explanation there. So if you're curious, head to Yog Ventures Kickstarter. Check that out, and because we don't quite have the information, we haven't had a chance to parse it yet.
Medusa's Mirror says Broken Age did ask for more money, and Part 2 still has not come out yet. Callie Sin says the Wintercool guys released a breakdown of the funds spent. Also noted that not every backer actually paid their pledge, and the actual total they got was $415,000 after Kickstarter and Amazon fees. I forget about that. I forget that Amazon and Kickstarter have fees whenever you pay that stuff. So sometimes people have to put in. They have to put their goal amount a little bit higher than what they actually need because once those fees come through, it kind of...
The fees, and also in the case of backer rewards that are like pricey objects, they have to factor in that cost as well.
How big are these fees we're talking about? What, 5, 10% or so? Something what?
I'm not sure what the exact amount is.
Well, let's look at... I mean, if they
probably pay a percentage based on
what they
each
accrue.
transaction.
Yeah. Oh. Still, they made just about, like Cavalier says, they made just about 2 times their target, though, to make this game. And they still were unable to make it. And there's a lot of angry people out there over this. And, I understand it, but it's kind of like that lesson learned of, like, here you go.
Yeah, I mean, I hate it. I hate that, some people put money in and didn't get their
Rather
game.
than point out the rule that the creators are not obligated to give them anything, I'd rather point out the rule that says the money you spend does not guarantee you will get what you've.
Yeah.
I think there's some kind of disclaimer or something on Kickstarter, I believe, saying that
let the buyer beware. Basically.
Yeah, I think there is. It's not on. It should be on everybody's Kickstarter, and I think there is a link to it on everybody's Kickstarter towards the bottom of the page, but. Yeah, I don't know, man. We've never done. Some people have told us to do a Kickstarter before. We can't figure out what we would want the money for.
Well, yeah, and we have no idea what rewards we would give.
We don't know what we would give. We don't know what kind of product we would give, and so we're not actually gonna. I'll never touch Kickstarter as far as doing something with this show,
unless we came up with something that would.
I know that we can provide whatever it is. Should we get the money?
Something we feel would be worthy of Kickstarter.
Yeah, we are looking at.
I hear there's one partially made game out there somewhere that you might be able to finish up.
Yeah, Yog Ventures, I think. Is what
In-game chat ventures. There you go.
Yep. IGC Ventures. Yeah, I don't know. That would be a funny thing, wouldn't it?
Call Telltale.
Yeah. How could we just see what would our characters be? James, I don't know what James would have. What kind of power would James have?
Oh goodness.
Something related to Warcraft.
or just talking to people, I guess. I don't know. W. Matthews says you guys would be better doing a Patreon. Guess what?
We've been looking into it.
We've snagged the name from Patreon, so nobody can have in-game chat. I've already done a video for it. We're coming up with stuff that we can put on there to flesh it out more. But we do have a Patreon page. It is not live yet.
Yeah, we don't want to just necessarily be like, oh, just please give some. We do want to come up with like
I'm trying
some kind of substantial rewards for like getting so much a month and things.
We
like
do
that.
Actually. We do have a Patreon page. We've not turned it on.
Yeah.
But we've got it up there. We've got our intro video for it. We just haven't fleshed out the rest of the page to kind of make it look nice and not just something we slap together. And yeah, James would throw whiskey bottles in our game. And that whiskey would be horrible whiskey. It would be, what was that stuff called?
Not Maker's Mark, but
Military
Special.
Military Special. He would throw bottles of Military Special at you. Hey, STM Fuller, thanks for the call, man.
Hey, have a good one.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah, just we've only got a few more minutes in the show, so thank him for calling. Great. If you guys wanted to get your calls in, 334-272-9228. Somebody's in the chat room said that they tried to call, but they couldn't. I don't know. It never rang over here. We never saw it ring, so I apologize for that. Yeah, so we're thinking about doing a Patreon.
Yeah, we need to suss it out. It's not going to be anytime soon right now. It's an idea we've been kicking around for a little bit to just, at the very least, pay like our server costs for the podcast. I'm not expecting to like make huge salary off this. It's just to cover like basic operating costs right now. It's something along those lines. If we could do that at the very least, that would be great.
Really quick, we've only got a few. I don't even know. ESPN streaming Dota 2. You had some thoughts on that real quick. Give them as quick as you can, because I have not read the story.
ESPN as a partner with Valve to show the International, I think on ESPN3, and doing a special on ESPN2 regarding it, which is a good thing. I hope it works out for them. It's supposed to be going on this weekend, because ESPN in the past has done Match of the Gathering, and we were talking about it's kind of surprising they don't partner up with Evo on anything, but
right. Yeah.
who knows? But definitely check that out if you're interested in Dota or want to find out what MOBAs are, or even if you just like saying MOBA.
MOBA, Dota. Hey, thanks everybody for joining us. Don't forget, in about 30 minutes after we go off the air, we're going to do some video game streaming, so just stick around in the chat room. Thanks everybody for joining us in the chat room, and everyone listening on the stream or on the radio. We thanks everybody who grabs us each week from iTunes or however you get our show. We appreciate it. Go to ingamechat.net. You can join us on Twitter, Facebook, our forums at colonyofgamers.com. I'm doing this fast because we're running out of time. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you're on Steam, we've got a Steam group you can join up with over there and play games with us and other listeners. We're about to do just that on our Twitch channel. We're going to stream some games. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next Saturday. This is music from Mega Man, sure.
Ghouls and Ghosts, Ghosts and Goblins.
Oh, thanks. There you go.